So I was gone all day, various things that I was doing. And I got to my door, and there were this beautiful, you can see them in the background, bouquet of flowers sitting at my door. I was like, who in the world sent these? Then I couldn't wait to open the note to see. And here's what the note says. Not a moment goes by without thinking about you. I hope this brightens your day. That's all. And it did. But it wasn't signed. I was like, who sent this? Well, the first person I was going to check with was my brother, but I was sort of secretly hoping it wasn't him and that I had an admirer. And if I found out who this admirer was, I was going to propose to him. I mean, wouldn't you? Not a moment goes by without thinking about you. In my grief, see, a lot of people will say that when you're doing okay and you're in good spirits and you're cooperative in a relationship. You're doing your part. I don't have the energy for that right now. But in that moment, for somebody to say, not a moment goes by without thinking about you, I hope this will brighten your day. If that had not been my brother and a single man, I think I would have proposed. Anyway, I digress.
Welcome to Get Real with Alexis Jones. On this podcast, we'll dive into real relationships with real people guided by the wisdom and perspective of some of the most seasoned voices in our community, our beloved seniors. Each week, we'll unpack the joys, challenges, and lessons learned about love, family, friendship, and everything in between. This is a space for heartfelt conversations, eye-opening truths, and powerful stories that will inspire and challenge the way you think about relationships. We're keeping it honest, unfiltered, and deeply meaningful. So settle in and let's get ready to get real. Let's jump in.
Welcome to another episode of Get Real with Alexis. I'm going to call this episode my personal messy journey with grief. As many of you already know, I lost my son Herman on January 10th of this year. He would have been 47 years old on February 16th. I shared the details in my very first podcast episode. It's entitled Intense Love, Intense Grief. I called it that because I learned that the deeper you love, the more intense the grief. So it's been a little over 4 months, and I want to try to have a conversation with you that answers a few questions. I'm the kind of person who tries to get all of her ducks in a row, especially before I address people or speak before crowds. But that was really difficult to do. Had I tried to get all my ducks in a row, I wouldn't be sitting here now. So I'm just going to speak from my heart the best I can, because like many of you know, grief doesn't come in a neat box that you can wrap real nice and neatly, put a bow on it. That's the way it is. That's the way it is for everybody. Grief is messy. So I'm going to try to guess the questions you might have, or the questions you might have for your loved ones who are going through grief. So all I can do is share my experience. I am not an expert in this subject, which I often say, but I think it's important to share authentically what's going on in your own personal journey, which a lot of people feel they don't have permission to do. So hopefully this helps. So here are some questions I posed for you. Where am I now on this journey? What helps? What hurts? What does a typical day look like? What have I learned and am I still learning? I don't know how to answer this question, or maybe I just hate this particular question. Here's the question. How are you, or how are you feeling? I wish they would ask this question. What are you feeling? If you ask that question, you only ask it if you really want to know. If you don't really want to know the answer, or you hope my answer will be pleasant and easy and positive, don't ask. Don't make me make you feel better. Allow me to sincerely express how I feel in that moment. Now, I know that's a big ask, but I can help you with some responses, and hopefully I'll be able to do that before this conversation ends. After the celebration of life service we gave my son, I found a support group. In fact, I found two. One support group is called Grief Share. It's structured, it has a workbook, and there are weekly videos on specific topics. And I really like this group, especially if you want organization. You just don't want to hear people express their feelings and thoughts and experience only, but you need some guidance and clarification and enlightenment. Grief Share provides that. It intentionally touches areas that are most likely to touch you or your loved one on this journey. I also joined a group called TCF, the Compassionate Friends, an amazing group. It targets parents who have lost a child, and only parents who have lost a child. It meets monthly. I look forward to listening to an incredibly diverse group of parents who have lost a child. They come from many backgrounds, men, women, old, young, but the thing that we have in common is we lost a child. Lastly, I have a therapist who listens to me for an hour each time we meet. We meet about twice a month. Sometimes I repeat incidences for areas where I still struggle, but she has to listen to my repetition because, well, I pay her. One of the most effective resources I was given came from a friend or a couple of friends as gifts. It's a 4-book series entitled Journey Through Grief. This is book 3. The author is Kenneth C. Hawk. So I was just sent book 3 by my friend Shirley. I want to share a bit and then answer the questions that I posed at the very beginning. Again, I'm just going to speak from the heart. There wasn't a whole lot of preparation, but I hope that what I say will be enlightening for you or helpful to you if you are the one grieving. This is book 3, but in each book, Shirley writes a note, a personal note to me. And I hope she won't mind, but I'm going to read this very brief note. Dear Alexis, still traveling this journey of grief with you in prayers and love. Have enjoyed several of your podcasts. You are loved. And then she signs her name, Shirley. This very brief note meant so much to me. First of all, she says, still traveling this journey with me. Still traveling this journey with me means that she knows I'm not over it as many people hope that I am, or at least farther along, whatever that means. Then she says, in prayers and love. Shirley and I don't speak often, but she lets me know that she's traveling with me and how she's traveling with me. She also mentioned that she's listening to the podcast. Now, why is that important? It goes well beyond the fact that I want so many likes and so many subscribers and everybody interested in what I have to say. At this point in my journey, I find that this podcast allows me to express myself, and that helps me along this journey. I need to be able to express myself in various ways, and you get to be the listeners. The fact that she listens makes me feel heard. So my question is, how do you or your loved ones need to feel heard? Because everybody needs to be heard, especially now. Because one of the things that I've found is that because grief, the nature of grief, it's hard for people to express themselves often. Not so hard for me if I get a pair of listening ears, but that's not easy for everybody. And more importantly, or just as important, but more often, it's hard for people to hear it. When they ask the question, as I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, I hope I can edit that out. I'm going to turn this off right now. When I mentioned the question earlier, people have a hard time hearing that you're not okay. And because of that, that often puts pressure on the person who is grieving to say, I'm not okay. But they need to be able to say, I'm not okay. Whatever that feeling or whatever they're going through, they need to feel like they can express it. They need to be able to express it. Let me say that better. And they need to know that you care enough to listen. You can't fix it. You can't make them feel better. You can't make the problem go away. You can't make the feeling go away. You can't. We have to go through grief, and grief hurts. And we have to go through it in order to get to hope and to healing. And that takes time. How long does it take? Well, I'm learning it just depends. So let me share some insight from Kenneth Hawkins in book 3. Before I do that, let me read a scripture that's at the very beginning of this book on the first page. This is Isaiah 54, verse 10. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord who has compassion on you. You can't read these scriptures too quickly. You really have to internalize, what is God saying to me in this moment? He's saying no matter what I'm going through, how bad I feel, how bad I've messed up, whatever, no matter, my unfailing love for you will not be shaken. The fact that God's unfailing love for me in this grief moment, along this grief journey, never fails, will not be shaken, means the world to me. It helps me stand up a little bit longer, a little bit stronger. Then he goes on to say, nor my covenant or promise of peace be removed. Even though I don't feel peace at any given moment, there are moments of peace, but there are many moments of chaos with, how can this be? How can it be that my son is gone? How? What if I had done that? What if I had done this? What if he had done this? What if they had done this? What if the doctors had done this? all of that. He's saying, nor my covenant of peace will remove. He still promises us peace. I'm going to turn the page and read a poem at the very beginning that stuck with me because it seems to express my journey. Here's a poem. It says, no one knows the tears still inside me. People think it's all past. They think I'm all better. Every once in a while, I think, I hope, I pray that things will be better too. But then I remember, and the pain floods back, and the bottom falls out, and I fall and I fall. And I know once again that things aren't all better. My loved one, my son Herman, is gone, and I cry alone many times. Most of the time, I cry alone. How much longer, God? How long does this last? There's the question. How long? How long does it last? When will I start to feel better, whatever that means? Because what am I feeling now? I'm feeling lost is one of the ways I can describe what I'm feeling. I'm lost because the world that I knew when Herman was living is gone. That world made sense to me. And Herman and I, we used to have so many scrapes. I'm telling you, we would fight like two boxers. We would go at it. And he'd get so frustrated with me and I'd get so frustrated with him. But I know he loved me deeply and I know I loved him deeply. So that world that I was familiar with is gone and I'm living in a brand new world. I cannot, somebody will say, this is your new normal. I can't call it that. There's nothing normal about this. When a parent loses a child, there's nothing that feels normal. I know that grief and loss are normal. And I know I'm not the only one who has lost a loved one and particularly have lost a child. But right now, 4 months out, it doesn't feel normal because as painful as it is, we expect to bury a parent, maybe even a sibling. But we don't expect to bury our child. That's not on the radar. I remember about a year and a half, I met with Herman, my younger son, Brandon, my brother, James, and they were here at the same time, which is rare. They were sitting on my sofa and I was sharing my end of life wishes because I want them to know my heart. I don't want them going through extra grief of guessing what would mom want us to do or where is this or where's that. So I always talked about things openly, but I still feel like I didn't talk enough. But when we were having that conversation, I remember jokingly saying, but being very serious when I said, and nobody precedes me in death. You got that? Don't put me through it. I need you to tell me you heard me. And so they did. But Herman, with his hard-headed self, he didn't listen. So I'm going to go back to my question. How long does grief last? For that, I'm going to refer to the expert. This is just the very first chapter of a very brief handbook. When people ask me, how long does grief last? I often answer, as long as it takes. In one sense, your grief will always be with you. When C.S. Lewis lost his wife, he wrote that losing a loved one is like having your leg amputated. You don't get over an amputated leg. The wound may heal, but the leg will never grow back. You'll always have that absence in your life, and you'll always walk with a limp. I can so relate to that, and I'm sure that some of you can too. That leg is not going to grow back, and the void will always be there. So in this new world, I wasn't walking with a limp in my former world, but this one I am. The author goes on to say this: in another sense, grief does end. Eventually, the intense pain subsides. Memories bring more smiles than tears, and the future appears more hopeful than foreboding. How long does it take to get there? I've asked that question several times. Many people will take 2 or 3 years to do the grieving they need to do. Some may take less, some may take more. There's no one size fits all time for grief. There's only your unique and personal time frame. So that's the only one that really matters, right? And so I'm going to stop there. There's so many helpful nuggets here, but I don't want to make this episode too long. Grief takes time, and the shape that it takes, how you look as you're on this journey, we're going to all look differently. The worst thing you can do if you're concerned about a loved one who's grieving is to make them feel that it's supposed to be this way or it's supposed to take this long. And after that, something must be wrong with you. Please don't do that. Just be there. Just be there. Pass me a Kleenex. The other thing that comes to mind is I heard somebody said to me one time, well, I don't want to talk about Herman because that might make you feel bad. I already feel bad. Not talking about Herman is not going to make me feel better. In fact, if anything, it makes me feel better because talking about him makes me feel better because I treasure the memories. I treasure him and I want to keep him alive in my heart, in my mind, in my life. I've created, and I won't show you this time, but I created a memorial photo album that's very personalized. It doesn't have just pictures, but I included a poem at the beginning that I wrote in his honor, and then one that I had read at the celebration of life. I included things that we found in his home that meant a lot to him. I took pictures and put those in there. And so it's very, very personal about his life and the things that he loved, the things that he valued. And I wanted to remember those things. And so maybe in our next episode, I'll share that album with you. The other thing I did, because I want to preserve his memories, I want him to be alive and well in my heart and in my life, is I gathered about 30 items of clothing, mostly t-shirts, a lot of pieces from Christmas pajamas, because over the years, I gave them Christmas pajamas and we were all matched on Christmas Day. And so I found a lot of those pajamas. He kept more of those than even I did. And I took pieces from those and t-shirts, and I found a favorite pair of jeans. Those jeans had to be really expensive because they were really nice. But I cut them up and took 3 pieces from them. And I had a quilt of 30 pieces, which included some photos. and I have it on. It's at the foot of my bed, and I see it every day. And so I have video of him playing and speaking and singing. Now, I haven't been able to get through a lot of the videos yet, but I'm so glad that I have them. So my original point was the statement that was made, well, I'm not going to talk about Herman because I don't want you to get upset, or I don't want to make you sad. As I said, you can't make me sadder by not bringing him up. In fact, I feel hurt that you don't want to talk about someone who means the world to me. So I want to talk about him. I want you know what would be great? If you shared a memory. I remember the time Herman did. That would be just wonderful. Now, will I cry? Probably, but they will be tears, cleansing tears and healing tears, good tears, if that's a thing. But I want to share memories, and I want to talk about him because he was an incredible person. But even if he wasn't for anybody else, he was for me, and is my son. I still have two sons. I had two sons all my life, and I still have two sons. Herman, the older one, is with the Lord. Brandon, the younger one, is still with me, but I still have two sons. So let me see if I can answer a few of these questions before we close this conversation. I wrote them down. Let's see. I think I may have answered some just as I was chatting. Where am I now on this journey? I'll tell you this. In some ways, it's harder. And the reason is, I think at the beginning, you can feel kind of numb. And I think that's by design because you have so much to process, and you've got to plan the service and get the loved ones here and give out information, or all those kinds of things. So you don't feel as much as you feel after the time goes on. So in many ways, now is really hard because the reality starts to set in. It's like, he's really gone? I still ask the question, and I cannot use the word death or dying or dead when it comes to Herman. I know what happened. I was there, but I can say Herman is gone. I think because some part of me wants him to return or think he might return. I'm not crazy. It's just a part of grieving. And I have not yet been able to say a phrase like, Herman is dead. I can't. That's just too painful. What helps? What helps are the things I name. Talk about him. Don't allow yourself to feel that it might make things worse for me. You might see tears, but it won't make things worse. What helps is to listen and not try to fix me. I'm a mess, but you can't fix me. It's going to take time. It's going to take love. It's going to take God. And it's just going to take time. Let me journey through this difficult time. And let your loved ones journey through this difficult time. And ask them, what are you feeling today? What are you thinking today? What's hurting you today? And be willing to accept that answer without trying to fix it. On the side note, you start talking about the son you lost, and someone says, yeah, I remember when I lost don't make the conversation about you, not in that moment. You can do that. You can share your experience, but make sure that the person that you're addressing who is grieving feels all the way heard, because it's not about you in that moment. So what hurts? The things that I've mentioned previously. I think I've talked a little bit about that. What does a typical day look like? Well, since I'm retired, my days are not consistent. They're not the same. I do different things on different days. But what is consistent is I sit in my chair and I sit there quietly for a moment. The first thing on my mind is Herman. The last thing at night on my mind is Herman. If I get up in the middle of the night, Herman is on my mind. So in the morning, I don't have a lot of long, eloquent prayers to pray. But I just say, God, I thank you for another day. Give me strength to get through this moment. Most of the time, I don't ask for strength for the day because that's too much. I need strength for the moment. I need to be able to get up and go to the restroom and take care of my needs and get dressed. And if I have something to do or someplace to go, to make that move. So God, give me strength to get through this first moment. And what have I learned, and I'm still learning? I think I've touched on that a bit. I don't know, and I want to revisit what I said earlier with the question that I hate. Hey, Alexis, how you feeling? I kind of made this joke in my grief support meeting. You don't really want to know how I'm feeling. It reminds me of that movie with Tom Cruise. I don't remember the name of it, where it says, was it Tom Cruise? Anyway, you can't handle the truth. You're asking for a truth, but you can't handle the truth because you don't really want to know what I'm feeling or how I'm feeling. So it's okay to just say, hey, Alexis, I'm thinking about you. I'll give you an example, real simple, meaningful example. My stepsister, Renee, called me on July 4th. Holidays are difficult. Family gatherings are difficult for me because I know that Herman's not going to be there. I've had to go through, his birthday was the first, and then there was Mother's Day, there was Father's Day, family reunion, couldn't do it, just couldn't do it. And July 4th. So my stepsister called me, and she never asks those questions that people don't really want to hear the answer to. She said, hey, sis, I want you to know that I love you and I'm thinking about you. I know these holidays can be difficult. That's all she said. That's all she said. We talked a minute or two and hung up, and I felt so comforted and validated. She acknowledged that this is a holiday. Alexis must be having a hard time. And I just want to let her know that I love her and I'm thinking about her. That's really all you have to do. You don't even have to ask the question, how are you feeling? I'm here for you. I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. I got some flowers from my brother today. I'm going to end with this. So I was gone all day, various things that I was doing. And I got to my door, and there were this beautiful, you can see them in the background, bouquet of flowers sitting at my door. I was like, who in the world sent these? Then I couldn't wait to open the note to see. And here's what the note says. Not a moment goes by without thinking about you. I hope this brightens your day. That's all. And it did. But it wasn't signed. I was like, who sent this? Well, the first person I was going to check with was my brother, but I was kind of, sort of secretly hoping it wasn't him and that I had an admirer. And if I found out who this admirer was, I was going to propose to him. I mean, wouldn't you? Not a moment goes by without thinking about you. In my grief, see, a lot of people will say that when you're doing okay and you're in good spirits and you're cooperative in a relationship. You're doing your part. I don't have the energy for that right now. But in that moment, for somebody to say, not a moment goes by without thinking about you, I hope this will brighten your day. If that had not been my brother and a single man, I think I would have proposed. Anyway, I digress. Grief takes time. Grief is painful, but there's hope. I can't tell you that I feel a lot of hope most of the time. I still feel a whole lot of pain, but my faith says God is going to get me through this. The people who love me will get me through this. And I take one moment at a time. I refuse to allow people to push me to a place where I'm not at right now. I can only be where I am and do what I can do right now. And I know that most people mean well. I really know that. They just don't understand. So you have to take your journey. You have to take it. Whether you're walking alone or with someone who truly understands, you have to take your journey. That's all I want to share in this episode. I'll share again as I can. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and especially comment, especially if you're dealing with grief or you know someone who's dealing with it. If I said something that's helpful, let me know, because that's why I'm doing this right now. Okay, it's always about others. It's always about others. And so thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.